Hey, K-Pasa Power Players, and welcome to the T-shirt Transfer Paper Power Half Hour, brought to you by the good folks at Condé Systems Incorporated. My name's Doug DeWitt, your host, and riding in the jump seat with me, controlling the vertical and the horizontal and the sound, is my good friend Rodeo Bo. Rodeo, thanks for coming along. I hope you're going to enjoy today's show. I hope everyone out there is going to enjoy today's show because we are going to give you our first look at the CAD-Link Digital Factory 10 Oki Edition RIP program. Now this is to power Oki white toner printers, basically mimicking a lot of the things that the Forever Transfer RIP will do, but with a few added features that we think that you're going to like. So stick around, it's going to be a great show, but of course before we get to that, we have to pay the power bill. Wanted to tell you about Webinar Wednesday, continuing thing that goes on at Condé TV and Facebook Live. And this Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we're going to have Nikki with the Sassy Subler, okay? And Sassy Nikki is going to tell us about sublimation gifts under 20 bucks, which I think is an awesome topic because everyone out there, our friends, our family, our coworkers, they deserve some recognition, but we may not necessarily have the bankroll to buy everyone a brand new Mercedes-Benz. Well, that's where Miss Nikki is going to come in and help us out, and you need to tune in tomorrow, 3 p.m., our Webinar Wednesday series. The topic, sublimation gifts under $20. Should be a great show. Also wanted to let you know that our overstock sale is still going on. We've got discounted prices on masks, mugs, slate, tumblers, whole slew of stuff, and that sale is still continuing. So click on the web banner on Condé.com or Dytrans.com for more information on that. And because you guys are my special peeps, I wanted to let you know that starting tomorrow, and you're the first people that are hearing about this, starting tomorrow, we are running a month-long flash sale on Forever Flex Soft no-cut vinyl. We'll have a banner displayed for it. Just click on it for more information, put the items in your shopping cart, and you will get the discounted price on those items. So we appreciate your business and hope you continue to shop with us here at Condé. And speaking of shopping at Condé, remember, all orders over $200, free Condé Saver delivery. Don't forget, it's available. Certain restrictions do apply, of course, but hey, you know, just our way of saying thank you for being a Condé client. And normally I would conclude paying the power bill by showcasing Mr. Gross's book, which I have done every show, but this show is going to be an exception. For all those out there in the viewing audience, if you can do me a big solid, redcross.org. Okay, maybe you have recently seen the footage of the devastation that Hurricane Ida did to Louisiana and the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Our friends and neighbors, you know, hurricanes are a bad deal and they can do a lot of damage and people need your help. So make sure to go to redcross.org. There is a click down where you can contribute to Hurricane Ida disaster relief. I, for one, would appreciate it. Thank you, my power players. So now that we've paid the power bill, let's talk about the CAD-Link Digital Factory 10 Oki Edition. Now, there are two versions of this RIP program, okay? There is the Digital Factory 10 Oki Edition, which is for your 4-color process Oki white toner printers, such as your 711WT, your 920 WT, the 8432 WT, which we will be demonstrating today, and even for the 6410 Neon. Now, the Digital Factory 10 Pro Edition for the Oki, that is for your 5-color process units, like the 9541 WT. Now, just so you guys know, the new CRIO units that are shipping, all those units are going to come with this Digital Factory 10 RIP software included as part of the package. So you don't have to shop around for a RIP, it's being supplied with the printer. Pretty neat. If you get the 8432 version, you are going to get the Digital Factory 10 Oki Edition. If you get the 9541 WDT, you're going to get the Pro Edition so that you can run a 5-color process, okay? Now, as far as what does this RIP program do, essentially the same main functions as the Forever Transfer RIP does, which is doing your image rasterization or screening, putting a slight distress pattern in the graphic so that the graphic is more flexible and more durable. It allows us to control the white toner, because without a RIP program, the printer is going to dump a finite amount of toner onto your transfer sheet, and that's what makes your transfers thick. It's what makes them brittle. It's what makes them crack prematurely. So we've got those controls in a RIP program, and also a cost calculation feature, which I think is essential because we have to know how much the job is going to cost us before we can accurately quote someone else. So those functions are pretty much universal between both the CAD-Link Digital Factory 10 Oki Edition and the Forever Transfer RIP. But there are a few features in this CAD-Link RIP that I really like, that I found was very useful, very handy, and I think in a way kind of outperforms the Forever Transfer RIP. So we're going to take time to touch on a few of those. So Rodeo, if you could please zap everyone in the viewing audience into my laptop. How'd you do, Rodeo Bo? Rodeo Bo's giving me the thumbs up. So obviously you must be looking at the Digital Factory 10 Oki Edition. Now this is for an 8432, which is a 4-color process printer. This is operating under the assumption that I am running cyan, magenta, yellow, and white toner configuration. Now, as you can see here, we've got all of our menus selections here, and of course we've got our icons here. And what you might also notice is that we have 2 print queues. One that's Pro 8432 WT Photo, and one that's Pro 8432 WT Graphics. The difference being with the graphics, it's set up to essentially boost the saturation of the designs that you drop into this folder so that you get a bit more color vibrancy without having to make any major changes yourself. The photo queue is basically for processing your photographs, and it's going to deliver a more photorealistic output. But what we're going to do is we're going to start in the graphics queue, and I'm going to show you one feature that I love about this RIP, which is essentially the ability to gang and nest different designs. Now, anybody who has ever worked with the Forever Transfer RIP knows that this can be a pretty laborious process within the Forever Transfer RIP. But I'm going to show you how easy it is with the CAD-Link Digital Factory 10 Oki Edition. I'm going to click on my Open icon so I can go ahead and select my files, and I'm going to hold the Control key so I can select these 2 files here, our Condé logo and what we call our Condé Pac-Man. Now, as those files are coming into the RIP, I'm going to zoom out here just so you can see we're basically working with 2 pages. But I am going to gang these logos and nest them onto a single page. It's pretty easy to do. So let's start by selecting our Condé logo here. As you notice, it came into the RIP automatically mirrored or reversed, okay? So when I select on the file, it gives me the dimensions of the file. Well, it looks like my horizontal dimension is 10.66 inches. That's too big for a pocket logo. Let's make that 3.00, and bang, automatically down to a 3-inch in length. Now here are my offsets. So I can go ahead and set this 1/4 of an inch from the side of the page, 1/4 of an inch from the top of the page, take all the guesswork out of alignment. Now, allow me to zoom in. While my file is still selected, I can click on Copies. And you notice it instantly throws a copy next to the original. Now, there is no space in between these 2 designs, so let me go down here to my horizontal spacing, and let me set about 1/2 an inch between these 2. Now, I can just grab this horizontal node and drag over, And as long as another design can fit on the page, it'll automatically put it in. If I try to drag off the page, it doesn't fill in. Nice little safeguard. So let me grab this vertical node here, and I'm going to drag down to create another row. Now again, there's no spacing between these rows, so let me go ahead and add a 1/2 inch of spacing. Now, there. All I had to do was grab the vertical node and drag, and it fills in. So as you can see, as long as I've got space on the sheet, I can keep adding and ganging up. Pretty simple. Okay, but now what I want to do is some nesting. I want to get my Pac-Man onto the same sheet to save paper. Well, with the Pac-Man selected, I'm going to hold down the Control key and just simply drag up, and there we are, nested on the same page. Okay, this Pac-Man at the moment is 7 inches high. That's too high. For a pocket logo, let's shrink it down to 2 inches. There we go. And again, I'll go ahead and get my offsets here. I'm going to set this 6 inches from the top of the page. There we go. Now again, hit my copies button. Instantly gives me another copy. Let's add a little bit of spacing. Let's drag over. There. 4 copies, just like that. Grab the vertical node, drag it down. There's another row. Again, go ahead and add some spacing. Drag again. And there we are. I've got all these images ganged and nested. Now, of course, at this point, I can go ahead and center that toward the page. Add a little bit of spacing there. Once I have the sheet laid out, I want to go over here into my queue. I'm going to hold down the Control key so that I highlight both, and I want to rip them. And as you can see, it combines the 2 graphics into one output job that we can go ahead and shoot to our 8432 WT. So it basically took us about 5 minutes to gang and nest 15 to 18 logos, where if we had tried this with the Forever Transfer rip, we would have to dedicate the entire show to this rodeo. So definitely a time-saving tool. Let me show you another neat feature here. And I'm going to go into my photo queue, and just so you can see it here, here are all the transfer papers that are supported by the CAD-Link Digital Factory 10. So it's not just the Forever brand products, but you got Freestyle paper, you got Jodo paper, you got Magic Touch paper, you've got Nina paper, you've got Shockline paper. And whenever you select a particular paper, it will automatically set your input tray, your media type, and the media weight for the job, which is pretty nifty. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and select the Forever Dark. And as you'll notice, it wants me to shoot to my multi-purpose tray using the Forever Laser Dark media type and an Ultra Heavy 3 media weight. Interesting. But let's just get into our next little feature here, which is basically being able to extrapolate designs, okay? And what do I mean by that? Well, let's open one up. I'm going to click on my Browse feature, and I'm going to work with this design here. So let me go ahead and hold down and drag and load this design into the rip. So basically what I have is a black and white design, just so you see here. Now, another interesting thing, and I'm going to drag in a copy, but watch. I'm going to change from Forever Dark to Forever Dark Black Shirt. So when I drag a copy of the file over, just to show you, by selecting Dark Shirt, the rip has instantly knocked out all the black background. Pretty cool. We can do it in one click. Okay, but let's say for the sake of argument, We forgot to do that. Well, there's a way we can fix it. But when I was talking about working with graphics, many of you have probably experienced this situation where a client brings you a low resolution photo that they want you to blow up onto a t-shirt. Well, just to show you, the CAD-Link Digital Factory 10 has a built-in, what I call, not an extrapolation, but a fractal program, okay? And that fractal program is referred to as supersize image, okay? At the moment, my current resolution on this graphic, which is 10 inches by 11 inches, is 108 dpi. I can increase that resolution up to 1,706 dpi with this program, but that might be a little overkill. However, 300 dpi works absolutely great. Now, as you can see, it's going to increase my file size, but what it's going to give me is a nice cleaned up graphic where we have bumped up the resolution. Just to show you some of the detail that we're getting from this fractal-based program, which is very easy to use. So we click OK, and at this point, the RIP will go ahead and start editing and readjusting our file from 108 dpi, which is what it was originally, up to 300 dpi. Now, what I will forewarn you is the speed at which this happens depends upon the strength of your computer. I would definitely recommend going with an i7 processor computer chip and at least a terabyte of RAM hard drive space. Now, I've got a solid state hard drive on this, so this tends to move pretty quick. But like I said, you know, we do this, we're going to be working with some big files, so your computer definitely should have some muscle to power the RIP. Okay, but now I've got my graphic at 300 dpi. I'm going to right click and show you some of the production plugins. This one in particular, Knock Me Blackout. Interesting name. But as we can see, just like changing to black shirts, it knocks out the black background for us. Now here, we can adjust the underbase to where it removes less black background or more. But the default, for some reason, is 74. So let's just go back to that. Click OK. And at this point, the RIP will go ahead and work with the graphic again. And now we've got the black background removed. So we can even drop in a substrate color to see how the job's going to look. Pretty sweet. So we were able to knock out the background black, and we were able to use a built-in fractal program, which is called Supersize Image, to take a low-res image, make it a 300 dpi image, which is suitable for printing, and we knocked out the black background. Pretty sweet. Okay, let's work on some of the other things that the RIP can do, and that is background removal. Now, before I do that, what I'm going to do is change the size of my sheet. Always want to start with that. Now, one thing that you'll notice here is, along with all your page sizes that are compatible with the 8432, you'll notice here that you have some paper sizes designated as LS. These are landscape. So, unlike the Forever RIP, which only worked in portrait orientation, we can work in landscape orientation with this RIP. So what I've done is I've set my sheet size to letter landscape, and I'm just going to zoom it in a little here. And let's grab this graphic. Let's grab my Mad Hatter graphic, and let's drop it into the photo queue. Oh, I still have black shirt selected. Silly me. Let me do one quick correction, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to set it to Forever Dark. And now, let me drag and drop. There we go. So here's my Mad Hatter design. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is give it a slight resize, and I'm going to go ahead and center it to the sheet. Now, let's say for the sake of argument, I didn't want this background pink. All I wanted was just the foreground, which is the Mad Hatter himself. Well, nice thing about CAD-Link Digital Factory 10 Oki Edition, there is another plug-in called Fluid Mask. So we're going to go ahead and click on the Fluid Mask, and this is basically a background removal tool that's built into the RIP. So in other words, you've got a fractal program which will increase your image resolution, and you've also got a plug-in that will knock out the background. Now, as you can see, the program has already mapped out all the breaks in color here. Now, what I'm going to do is select my tool, which is the Delete Local Brush, and here I can change the pixel size going up or down. But at this point, if I just click on the area that I want to knock out, see that it highlights it here? Well, now let's go to File, Save and Apply. And let's watch what happens. So again, it will take the RIP a little bit of horsepower to process these particular applications. So make sure you've got a good working PC operating Windows 10, and make sure it's got a fast microchip processor and good memory. Now, the RIP, you can allocate more resources to running the RIP from your PC to get it to run faster. We'll probably cover those a little later. But just to show you what we've done here, with one click, we've basically knocked out the background from our photograph. So at this point, we can go up to our preview screen and see what the graphic would look like with a light blue background, or what it will look like with a yellow. Now, just to let you know, the preview screen is not an accurate representation, but it will print out correctly. But what it does is it does give us a sense of how our artwork will look like against certain backgrounds. But like I said, pretty neat feature with the Fluid Mask, we were able to knock out that background. Now, of course, the more detail that's in the background, the more time it would take us to remove that background. Just so you know, there are some tutorial resources online for Fluid Mask. Just search them out on YouTube like I did and start studying up. But again, this feature is built into the CAD-Link Digital Factory 10 RIP, which I think is pretty sweet. And so now one more thing I'd like to show you here is, like the other competing RIP, which is the Forever Transfer RIP, the Digital Factory 10 RIP from CAD-Link does have what the Forever people would categorize as a micro mask feature. In other words, this is putting distress throughout the entire graphic. Just to show you how it's going to work here, let's click on our paper menu, and whenever you see settings, forever with holes, forever with stripes, this is essentially micromasking. So let's go ahead and select forever with stripes. Let's make our page size 11 by 17, and let's bring in our working graphic. Again, I'm just going to drag and drop here. I could have used the open or gone File Import to do this, but here's our graphic here. Now, some other neat features within the RIP. We can go to some easy adjustments. In other words, if we don't like the saturation, we can make the graphic darker with a single click. That looks good. Let's go back to our easy adjustments. We can work with the contrast and manipulate the graphic. So basically, features that we would normally be using a slide bar for, we could still do, but there's some nice, easy setup, ready to go features within the CAD-Link RIP that allows us to do these things on the fly. Now, let's look at that micromask feature. I'm going to double click to pull up the production queue. Now here, under color layer, just to show you the layer profile, we've got the white, cyan, magenta, and yellow enabled, okay? But if we wanted to disable a certain color, so to speak, like not use white at all, we could turn it off right here. Another thing that we can do is if we have some misalignment issues with any particular color, we could adjust the X and Y axis so that we can fix our own alignment issues through the RIP. Pretty neat. Another screen I'll show you here, under processing options, here is the coverage, okay? So what we're doing is going with coverage under base. And kind of like the Forever Transfer RIP, this is defaulted at 200. If we go a little lighter, it will lay down less white toner. Go a little heavier, it will lay down more white toner. But we've got that control right here. What the CAD-Link RIP refers to as choke, the Forever RIP calls underfill, but these are the number of pixels that we basically determine to where the white toner underbase will print underneath the color base. In other words, to keep the white edging from happening. So we can go ahead and set that here. Now, let's say we were going on to a black shirt, but we forgot to do it earlier. We can go ahead and use that knockout black feature right here. Ink removal, we've got it enabled. The frequency is very similar to what would be the dot size in the Forever Transfer RIP. So if we go with a higher number, so to speak, the smaller the dot will be. Angle works just the same. I'm going to set this at a 90-degree angle. And since we selected Forever Dark with stripes, it automatically defaulted to a line shape. But we can change that shape if we wanted to. Okay? So we can control the hole size right here. If we drop this number, it will be a bigger hole. If we increase this number, it will be a smaller hole. We can also work with that with the transparency or halftones right here. But just to show you how this is going to look, I'm going to go ahead and rip this file. And once the file is ripped, we can view the raw data. And just to show you how it's going to look here, give me a moment to zoom out. So as you can see, we knocked out the black, so all that is dropped out here. Let me go ahead and zoom in so that you can see the break lines that are running vertical here. And if we click on our toggle layer here, what we can do is see individual colors, such as where the yellow toner will be deposited, the magenta, the cyan, just like in the Forever Transfer RIP. Now, when it comes to white, we select on white and we click on View Colors as Black, and there we get a sense of where all the white toner will be deposited on the page. If we don't like these settings, we can just simply open the file, double click, go back into our production queue. Let's select ink removal. I want to drop that frequency to 40 to 20. Now what this should do is it should give us a wider dropout band. Now let me go to the processing options and let me turn off the knockout black. Let's just see it in its full glory, Rodeo. So again, let me go ahead and rip the file. Now the file is ripped, let's view that raw data. And again, I'll zoom in for you. You can see how the dropout is now more pronounced. Okay, so it's going to function very similarly to the Forever Transfer RIP when it comes to these settings. We just basically have to learn where these settings are. But like I said, some of these features, I think, give the CAD-Link Digital Factory 10 RIP some very unique advantages. So, we back to me, Rodeo Bow? Did everyone escape my computer? Everyone safe and sound out there? Good. So, let's kind of touch on some of the finer points of the CAD-Link Digital Factory 10 Oki Edition RIP program. Now, as you can see, compared to the Forever Transfer RIP, we've got some nice features and built-in functions that, simply put, the Forever RIP doesn't contain. It almost makes the Forever RIP look like an over-glorified driver. However, there are still some functions that I'm trying to figure out in the CAD-Link and how they relate to the Forever RIP, such as the shadow tolerance and other commands that I know how to work in the Forever RIP. I'm still trying to find them out in the CAD-Link RIP. I'm sure they're there, I just have to do a little bit more digging. But like I said, this can perform a lot of functions within the RIP, you know, such as the enhancing the DPI with the fractal program that they call Supersize Me, or knocking out the background with what they call Fluid Mask. It's also a less expensive RIP than the Forever Transfer RIP. So I'm sure we'll be doing a few more shows when it comes to operating this RIP. The other feature that I wanted to touch on was the fact that all of those transfer papers are preloaded as far as color management is concerned. So you can work with a variety of different papers with this RIP, whereas compared to the Forever RIP, it's basically geared to work with one brand paper, which is their own paper. So there's a lot to like here about the CAD-Link Digital Factory 10. So I hope you enjoyed this overview, this presentation on some of the neat features that this RIP can do. Like I said, I'm sure we'll have more shows upcoming within the next few months. But when it comes to this show, if you need additional information, we've got product description links down in the long description of the YouTube. So make sure you click on that and it'll take you right to our pages where you can get more information. And when it comes to this video, don't forget to click, like, comment, and share, because we're a community here. I want everyone to know. And also, just want to let you know we're going to have our next edition of the T-shirt Transfer Paper Power Half Hour on Tuesday, September 14th. And we're going to touch on one of my favorite subjects, which is heat applied vinyl. Now, looking at this design here, I know what you're thinking. Doug, how long did it take you to weed that design? Well, it only took me about 2 minutes to weed. Not because I'm fast with a pick tool, but because I've got an ace up my sleeve. I've got a product that could even do photographic reproductions in vinyl. I could literally have Sprite rose wood and metallic rose gold. How do I do it? It's Forever Flex Off No Cut Vinyl, and we're going to show you how to use it on our next edition of the T-shirt Transfer Paper Power Half Hour, Tuesday, September 14th, 3:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. We're still operating in daylight time, aren't we, Rodeo? Rodeo's shaking his head, yes. So, you know, I'm sure we'll make some laws to fix that. But make sure you tune in at that time. We'll go over the Forever Flex Off No Cut. We'll have a good time doing it. If you have any questions about the material we covered in this, you can comment or you can shoot us an email. Our inbox is TTPPHH@Condé.com. They come right to me and I'll reply to everyone. So, hope you tune in to the next episode of the T-shirt Transfer Paper Power Half Hour, brought to you by Condé Systems. Until then, I'm Doug DeWitt, Transfer Paper Product Manager here at Condé Systems, and my time is up, and I thank you for yours.